Back to the other presidential election of the day. This is the US one, in the midst of a major economic crisis, of course, because of coronavirus. And a business editor, Stephen Carroll, has been looking at what the candidates have been promising for us on the economy. You're going to start, aren't you, with Donald Trump. He's pledged to continue cutting taxes if he's re-elected.
Tax cuts were really the kind of central part of Donald Trump's economic platform for the last 4 years. The 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was the biggest reform of America's tax system in 3 decades. It cut taxes for both individuals and for businesses as well. Those tax cuts currently set to expire in 2025, but Donald Trump has promised to extend the tax cuts until 2030 if he's re-elected. That will approximately double the cost to the public finances from $1.5 trillion to $3 trillion. And Donald Trump wants to go further than that as well. He wants to start cutting capital gains tax, which is the tax paid on things like profits from investments. He wants that to come down too. Now, he believes that through these policies of tax cuts and deregulation, he can create 10 million jobs in 10 months. That would be around the number of jobs that have been lost since the start of the pandemic. Big job number promises, they're quite common in US presidential elections. You might remember Donald Trump back in 2016 promised to create 25 million jobs. Before the pandemic struck, he'd gotten to about 6.6 million jobs.
At least he got some of the way, I suppose. And what about Joe Biden then? What does he have to say?
It's one of the big points of difference between the candidates is taxation. Joe Biden wants to increase taxes on the richest households in America. That's those earning over $400,000 a year. He wants to bring the top rate of corporation tax back up to 28%. His proposals would raise $3 to $4 trillion in government revenues by 2030. The Democratic candidate, to contrast with Donald Trump, wants to raise capital gains taxes as opposed to cutting them, which is what Donald Trump wants to do. So changes there are afoot too.
So tax is the central part of Trump's plan, and Joe Biden's as well. So it really is crucial, isn't it, the economy?
That's right, and investment really being a big issue in this too. Joe Biden promising a $2 trillion investment program in clean energy and infrastructure. He says it'll create 10 million jobs. You'll see that figure coming up quite regularly. So within this plan, there's $400 billion in research and boosting climate-friendly industries, plus there's money pushing the switch to greener energy, increased investment in public transport, upgrading homes and buildings to make them more energy efficient, and he's pledging to create 1 million jobs in the auto industry by restoring tax credits for electric vehicles and also money to help installing more charging points for electric vehicles as well. Now, infrastructure spending is one of the areas where actually there is quite a lot of commonality between the two candidates. Earlier in the year, the Trump administration had floated a $1 trillion infrastructure spending plan, not with the same green focus though as Joe Biden. Now, the Trump campaign hasn't published a detailed plan on this issue, but at least we have an idea that there's some shared interest there in spending on infrastructure.
Going to talk about healthcare now. Perhaps not an obvious economic issue, but it involves huge amounts of public and private spending. Where do the candidates stand on that, Steve?
So the US spends more per capita on healthcare than any other high-income country. It's worth 17% of its GDP, so health is an economic issue as well. Donald Trump wants to scrap the Affordable Care Act that was passed under the Obama administration. Of course, he's been saying that for many years. The incumbent president hasn't outlined a healthcare plan of his own, although his latest budget reduces funding for Medicare and Medicaid, which are the government health programs for senior citizens and low-income Americans. He also wants to cut funding for the health department. Trump has also said that he will work to reduce drug prices and could issue an executive order to force insurers to cover pre-existing conditions, which is, of course, one of the issues that the Affordable Care Act had sought to tackle as well. From Joe Biden's point of view, he wants to lower the eligibility age for people to be able to access Medicare. He wants that to come down to 60. That's the program for senior citizens. He also wants a limit on insurance costs. He wants it to be 8.5% of income maximum. He also wants to create a public health insurance option, which will cover around 97% of the population.
So we've got journalists following the election. We've got, voters following the election. Something else is following the election as well. This is stock markets.
Yeah, that's right. Wall Street closed up on Monday. Market watchers say that investors are primarily hoping for a clear winner from today's vote. European shares starting the day up today in trading too. They had also risen on Monday. London's FTSE 100 leading the gains today, up over 1% at the open. The positive sentiment from the United States was carried over into Asian trading earlier too. Now, Tokyo's closed for a public holiday, but big gains across Shanghai, Hong Kong and on the Kospi in Seoul. there's a lot for traders to digest on this election. Joe Biden, for example, seen as a better bet for getting more stimulus into the economy, that $2 trillion plan I was just telling you about, whereas Donald Trump promising more tax cuts. That could be good news for business as well. So plenty for traders to work off.
Stephen, thank you very much. A lot more from Stephen, of course, this time tomorrow, as hopefully we will have got most of the results anyway from the US elections.